Hello. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. I'm Dr. Jeremy Cross.
And I'm Dr. Allie Cross.
Dang, hold on. Let me start that over. Hey, we're at the beginning basics. This is going to be a part of our blooper reel.
Our what reel?
Our blooper reel.
It sounds like you said
Blooper.
Gonna make the world a better place. Gonna make the world a better place. Gonna make the world a better place. Gonna make it home.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Dr. Jeremy Cross.
I'm Dr. Allie Cross.
And this is Footprints to Blueprints. We got a special edition for you guys today. It's called Soulmate Confessions.
Oh, boy.
So we're going to be asked some questions, and we're going to try to give you guys our best replies.
Authentic.
It goes authentic.
I have no idea what these questions are.
Off the cuff.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Are we going to throw them out there?
We're ready.
All right.
Who has a more impressive collection of shoes, and what's the most outrageous pair?
I would have,
Quantity or obsession? Because I have a lot of shoes, but you have like a shoe obsession.
I'm a sneakerhead.
Yeah.
You know, like being a former athlete, I think you grow up.
You're the one who, like, when we go to a store, you're going to run into the shoe store next door.
I'm going to stop by the shoe store. They may have something. But I'm also one of those shoe shoppers that I don't need to go to like just like a Foot Locker or a Dick's or somewhere to get shoes. Like I'll drop into Marshall's and pick up something really clean for about $25. You know, like that's the kind of shoe shopper I am as well. So you end up getting those steals, right? Like, ooh, I got it at Ross for sure. Like some of my dopest shoes I got at, you know, those type of stores, TJ Maxx, Ross, those things. But I think we both love shoes. Is that weird because we're both podiatrists? But we love shoes?
I don't love shoes like that. I like nice shoes, and I choose shoes for the season, and I usually stick with my shoes and wear the same ones.
I love shoes. I feel like shoes make the outfit.
I know you feel that way.
You know?
Our children have too many shoes. And my sister's like, my kids have 2 pairs of shoes, one for PE and one non-PE days. And I was like,
I feel like you can't have that though. What are you supposed to do when your kids need to go to like a nice event? Like our kids have cute little boots or sandals, or you can't just have, you can. A lot of people do.
It's also a write-off for us. So that's the way in my brain that I am able to
think about it.
Think about buying more shoes and not really caring about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it still comes out of the bank account, whether it's a write-off or not.
I think that, well, the shoes that mean the most to me probably are, I have a pair of Reebok pumps, the ones that have the basketball on the tongue and you can pump them up. And the reason I have those, I have a pair of those in my office. And when I was younger, my dad, like I told you guys before, I was raised by a single mom, and my real dad came to watch me play basketball one time. It was down at Venice Beach, and your boy was balling. And I never really saw him, and he tried to, do this nice gesture for me and my brother and buy us the D Brown Reebok pumps. And those were like the hot shoes at the time. And I remember after the game, because of course he showed up late, after the game, he came to the hotel that we were staying at and he brought these shoes. Well, the shoes didn't fit. They were the wrong size. So we were like, oh man, that really sucks. Like it was probably the nicest thing I've ever received from my father. Like I had the type of dad that on Christmas.
How old were you?
I don't know, man, like 6, 7. I was
you were still little.
I was still young.
Yeah, I was like, 'cause I didn't think you had an encounter with him like that later.
Yeah, later on in life. And so he was the type of cat, like would buy you sweatpants and a sweatshirt for Christmas. Like, bro, I'm 5, I'm 6 years old. That's crazy. But anyway, so when I finally could afford to start buying shoes, I bought several pairs of these Reebok pumps. And so I keep them in my office just to remind me that, just because someone doesn't want to be involved in your journey doesn't mean that you're not going to be something great. And so that's probably the pair of shoes that I like. Yeah.
Jeez.
It's not something I share very often, but yeah.
I've been with you for 16 years.
It's just one of those little things that I keep with me, right? To just keep me going like, yo, like that person wasn't there then, and there's going to be people that go throughout your journey that may not be there, and are not supporting your dream and your vision, but that's okay. That doesn't mean that that's not your vision, your goal. That shouldn't stop you, right? Like what God has ordained for you, man, you got to keep going after, right? He'll make it happen. Yeah. So
That was a sweet story.
Yeah, I thought so.
What's one thing you love and one thing you hate about working with your partner in the clinic?
Oh, that's juicy. One thing you love. Well, we're not really used to working separate because ever since we started going back to school in the very beginning, we've been together. So we find it harder to not be together, which sounds silly, but it's true.
I think there's a sense of comfort when my business partner, my wife is there. I think what's really challenging about it is separating that business mindset and turning that off when you go home and realizing like, oh, just because I just spent 10 hours with my wife at work doesn't mean that I spent quality time.
Yeah, he doesn't do that very well.
And so that's probably the biggest challenge because I'm like, oh, well, we were just together.
Yes,
you know?
and he doesn't think that.
So it's taken me years to mature in that
But our
process.
quality time is not at work.
Is not work time. Like just because we were together at work doesn't mean that that's quality time. And so we've tried to do things to make sure that we're spending time outside of work.
We go on
to get to
lunch
know each other.
dates.
Yeah, do the lunch dates, and
I feel like that's have been a good thing.
it's been really nice. So because
I
we
think
do.
the hardest thing for me is when he gets frustrated at the staff, and so we're having like a office meeting, and he's annoyed about something, and he is the type of person that when he gets frustrated, he repeats himself and he like drills it in, similar to my father. And so it makes me really uncomfortable, and I just start cringing. But I can't say anything because I'm supposed to be here and like supportive co-owner and everything. And it's like I'm dying inside. But he has to do it and I'm there to support, but it just makes me so uncomfortable. As I've gotten older, things like that, confrontational things like that, it makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm usually the guy that has to be the bad cop in certain situations. But no, I think just trying to separate work time versus actual like intimacy.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about like physical. I'm talking about, hey, like, how are you doing? Right? Like what's going on with you, right? Outside of podiatry.
Okay, what's the most soul-crushing thing your partner has done during a hectic workday?
That's a hard one. Usually it's not something that you've done. It's more of something like the fires that we have to burn out because something random happened. I don't think it's necessarily something.
I think soul crushing, just for me, I hate seeing my partner deal with like extreme attacks of anxiety. And so it's very challenging because my wife sees patients and she's also doing a lot of the administrative stuff on the backside. And so with that being said, you are putting out different fires and it can become overwhelming at times. And I just remember you being pregnant with Lele, and we were in a different practice and we were having to start up the other practice and all the things that you had to juggle. And so it was more soul crushing just to have to watch you work through that process, right? And then dealing with postpartum, right? I mean, that was hard. That's hard to watch someone that you love suffer through those things, right? And feel hopeless and not know how to help them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's not that we do it together. It's more of like the experiences that we experience. Like when you have your racist comments happen and we're dealing with these things and that emotion that happens from it and it triggers and your whole body goes numb and it's like we feel those emotions when those kinds of things happen or when patients are out of line or it's just the straight up attacks that we get from patients and then each of us having to deal that. That's hard because we know what it feels like somewhat for each other in those situations. And it's never, you don't want to see your business partner, your spouse, or anybody that you care for have to experience that on a pretty regular basis.
In that situation too, once again, you're having to differentiate between like, okay, this is my business partner and this is my wife.
Yeah.
Because there's times where someone will say something and I'm like, bro, like you're talking about my wife.
He does
man.
it all the time.
Like, what do we
A lot of the times when we're at the VA, he's like, that's my wife.
That's my wife, man. Like, chill out with that, because it just gets to a point where you're like, okay, like I need you to fully understand though. Like this is the woman that carried my children,
being,
Let's be mindful of that.
It's very protective.
I get very
You're
protective.
very protective.
Yeah, I don't mess around with that. But in the same regard, there's times where you have literally had to come into a room with patients just to make sure that it's a safe environment for me.
Yeah.
Because there's times where people will use, the trigger words, oh, it's confrontational. I was persuaded. It was this, it was that, right? And she comes in as a witness to make sure that there's not gaslighting.
Or there's been
going on.
patients who I've said, we're not seeing you anymore because, and I went to, it was like at a facility and the guy was making racist remarks. And I was just
As
like,
I'm servicing this patient,
and I
like,
said,
it's crazy.
went to the head people, and I said, we're not seeing that patient anymore. I mean, and so you have to have those boundaries, and it's hard for people to hear it when you say what the boundaries are and the reason why, but it is. And everyone's like so shocked that racism still happens. And you're just like, but I'm not making this up though.
That's probably the most challenging thing is that I think we are, especially as professionals, you're almost shunned to not say anything because you're like, you're making too big of a deal of it. Like, why do you even have to talk about that? And it's like, this is the reality. Like, we go into patient rooms all day, every day, and have these interactions, right, with people that are dealing with pain. And I mean, they're saying all kinds of stuff. But there are times when you go into a room with a patient, and I had an experience today
Surprised.
where I was speaking with a gentleman, 79 years old, and he is, a Norwegian patient, and we were just talking about, the dichotomies of being, a Caucasian male and a black male or an African American male. And he told me about this story where he was living here in Silverdale, Washington, and there was a black family that moved in. But the black male, this was in 1959, was married to a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, which I thought was so crazy because I'm like, my wife is blonde hair and blue eyes. Well, he was a teacher in the community, and there were no black people in the community back then. He was the only one. And so he had a really, really hard time. And he was like, this guy was super educated. He was smart, but he just got beat up all the time by the community. And so he was just complimenting me on being young and being a young business owner and acknowledging the challenges that are faced, even though he didn't go through those challenges himself.
Yeah, but he's able to step back.
He was
really
able to
look
step back and be
see
like, wow,
and
man.
acknowledge.
Like acknowledge the fact that, hey, it couldn't have been an easy road.
Right.
I don't know your journey,
Right,
but I
right.
know that from my history of being here,
just living.
just living in general, it couldn't be an easy road. And so we had a lovely conversation, and I said, we talked about essentially, it's very crazy because we as two men can sit here and have this conversation, have this open dialogue, neither of us getting angry, we agreeing to disagree in some regards, but we're like, but if we had one friend here, that whole dynamic would change. The whole dynamic would change because someone would get angry. And he was like, you know why? Because someone has to be right.
It's true.
People can't sit and have a conversation and just be like, you know what? Like, thank you for your perspective.
Yeah. And
Their perspective has to be right.
Allowing people to have opinions. There's always an argument, or it has to lead to an argument.
Yeah. So there's two sides of the coins. I've grown so much from having conversations with our patients and getting their perspective and understanding because I wasn't alive in 1959.
No.
Right. But being able to hear those
I'm
stories.
surprised that couple that had to have been around when, were they married?
Married.
Yeah, because I need to know the date of when they could get married because that's probably around age.
Right, because it was.
There's an age there when we were not able to get married
illegal.
at a certain point. Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah,
60s or something, around the 1960s. Yeah, so crazy.
All right, next question. What's the weirdest foot fetish story you've heard or encountered in your practice?
just got
And you
chills.
have to answer this separately.
foot fetish. I don't. You have one.
I'm going to interject real quick. Bans on interracial marriage lasted until 1967.
Yeah.
So they married illegally.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Super crazy. But
Okay. On
Foot fetish.
I've had patients that have taken pictures of their feet and done the whole online picture thing.
Oh,
I've also had patients talk about how they like getting their toes popped. Like it was
What?
I don't know,
like what I do for Adrielle?
yeah, like it turned them on sexually to have their toes
Ew,
popped.
what?
Which is, I don't know. I mean, and I don't know why people share stuff like that, but that is one of the things.
I don't know. One shares things like that with me. I don't ask
They
about
feel very
it.
open.
I don't know. I don't talk about it. I don't want to know about it. I will reroute the conversation.
I really try to reroute the conversations, but what do you do when,
They want you to do it. That's what is going on.
Just pull their toe and pop it once or twice. Like, what? Just pop it? What's popping? What's popping? I'm like, okay,
That
let's
was a
tone it
really
down.
good popcorn place in Ohio.
What's poppin' popcorn was really good in Ohio. Sidetrack. Yeah, that was bomb. Yeah,
Talk
be
about
honest.
fetish, popcorn fetish. We love
But
popcorn.
nothing super crazy. I mean, it's not like people are talking about sucking on toes and stuff like that.
I mean, but
usually.
you have a patient who talks about doing that for money. Yes, you do.
I do, yeah. But I mean,
I don't experience that.
the patient needed to get more money to pay rent, and so she was like, essentially, I needed to come get my toes cleaned up so that I can take pictures to sell these online so I can make my rent payment. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, separate from the toe popping patient. But
Anyway, yikes.
Okay, what's the strangest patient story you've ever shared over dinner?
man,
That's hard because there's some gross ones. We talk about it a lot.
I mean, for me, there's
The
been patients
craziest?
that have weird fetishes, like wanting to wear, certain apparel or,
I don't
Things
know.
like
I
that.
think depends on which way you go, whether like maggots. I mean, those are things that we've seen. It depends on who the people are sitting at the table, who we're with.
That's true. Because if we're sitting at the
If
table
it's
with your
just
dad
us,
and we're talking about
he
like a
can't
surgical
see
procedure,
anything. Oh God, he can't see anything.
he's not having it. Like,
No.
we're like, look at the surgery we just did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
like we
he-
just realigned this foot. And he's just like, oh, I can't do it. Like, don't show
Depends.
me.
Yeah, it depends on the audience. But
Yeah.
maggots throw people off a lot.
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
my mom or even our kids love to see the procedures that we do. Like
It's
they're
usually
into it.
patient stories that are like the worst part. It's not the actual feet.
Yeah, it's typically not foot related. It's typically more like
You could not believe what this story was today,
Yeah.
type of thing.
I love coming to the office wearing a diaper, and you're like, that's
Yeah.
crazy, like weird stuff, where you're
we
like,
can't go
that's
into details
that's
about
crazy.
that.
Yeah, you're like, that's interesting, So
Yeah.
What's the funniest argument you've had in the office that only podiatrists would understand?
Probably some treatment related thing,
yeah.
like what you would do or modification to orthotics but that's not really arguments. I don't know. That was a big thing for us to go to the same training because we knew that we're both hard-headed. And so it's good to have the same training so you learn the same things. That was a very strategic thing for me when we were trying to pick residencies because if we were to go to different places, then the chance of the training being different obviously is, well, that's what happens. And so then trying to come back, we've had to learn how to communicate silently in surgery.
Yeah.
That's been the hardest. I would say that's been an environment where I've had to like tone down things because we're in surgery. It's hectic, it's stressful, and there'll be something going on or I don't know.
Very
have to
much
be-
it's like, oh, it's not there, and you're like, you can't.
You have to be
Very calm when you're in surgery, and so because you're with surgical techs, you have the anesthesiologist.
everyone's watching you.
Everyone's watching,
and
and
then
so
they know we're married,
Yeah.
so you have to not bicker or whatever because we had attendings in residency who like fought every surgery they
So
did
there's
together.
a level of professionalism. So we'll do a tap, right? Like if we
Or
don't
he'll
agree
give
with
me the
something,
eyes or
we'll
something.
tap or like give eyes, give those type of signals because you never want someone to think that you're not on the same page when you're cutting into a human body. That's probably not
Yeah.
the best time to have an argument. And there's been cases, literally like 2-3 hour cases that we've gotten out of, and we're like, she's like, you're being a dick. Like, what was that about? Like, why did you say, and you're like,
Or
dang,
he's like, it's my surgery, and he's my assistant, and he's like not focused whatsoever. And I'm like, where the hell were you?
Yeah,
You were not there.
yeah.
And then you left because you had to go to the bathroom or something.
something crazy.
And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
You get mad at me for wanting to play music.
Or someone's asking about
Yeah.
social media and their kid
I'll be
wanting
chatty,
to be
and then or he'll oh my gosh.
So it gets
That surgery is probably the place where those kind of things happen.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, who is more likely to diagnose a foot problem without even looking at the patient's feet?
Dr. Alley.
Why do you say that?
I think you're very intuitive in that regard.
They say like 95% of diagnoses are done based off of history and like the history.
Yeah.
But I don't. I mean, I do know. You know. I don't
Yeah,
have to touch the foot to know what's going on.
I would just say that you have a really good level of intuitiveness
Yeah.
when it comes to
I mean,
stuff
I
like
agree with
that.
that.
And so I would say that she's more likely to do that. Like she's not sounding.
Your mom's calling you.
My mom's calling me. Should I answer?
No, because I don't know what it's about.
Oh, let's answer.
Oh, Lord.
She'll call me back. When a mom calls, should I call my mom? No, I'm calling my mom back. I'm not getting in trouble. She's going to see this recording and be like, what's going on?
Chili got out. Probably.
Yeah.
Chili has this huge rash on her neck.
Hey, Mom, what's up? You're on the podcast.
Anyway, quick question.
Yes.
They need a tote to take some of the food out of the refrigerator to be able to move the refrigerator. And
Can they just put it on the table?
Leave one. Do we have an empty one?
Can they just
somewhere?
put it on the table that's right there?
Can they just put it on that table that's right there in front of
Can
the
you
sink?
just put it on the table that's right there in front? I think you should be walking towards it, Jack.
It's in front of the sink where the dishes
Yeah.
are.
Okay, then that they're asking, please. Also, your sink is leaking. Good. You put some pots under there to stop.
There was a blue bowl under
There
there.
was a blue bowl under there.
No, there's two leaks, babe. Two leaks. The
So-
blue bowl is covering one, but it's not helping the other.
Okay. Well, just another fire. We'll contact the plumber. Love you. You're the best. Thanks. I'm glad you're okay.
the best. Have a great podcast.
Thanks, Mom. Love you.
Love you guys.
Bye. Like, that's the reality of it. Like, day in, day out, like putting out fires. Like, oh, by the way, the house.
But I don't want to call the plumber because we are just going to get our new sink. And so we're going to have him come out and fix this ring-a-dink sink that was broken by our contractors.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do with that.
So annoying to me.
Very annoying. But we're not going to get our hardwood floors that just got put in ruined because we don't have a sink. Dude,
All right,
we're
last
still
question.
camping. Last questions.
Last question. In a typical morning in your household, who's the first to mention feet?
I would probably say Dr. Alley.
No.
Yes, because
At
you're gonna
home?
mention something
It's
that
about work?
has to do with work.
Business, not feet.
That's still feet related. Our business is feet.
Well,
It's
not,
gonna be Dr. Alley for
I'm
sure.
gonna, sure.
You're gonna agree to disagree? I
No,
would have
I'm
to
just
say
not
you.
going to say more than that. Sure.
Okay.
When
I
I'm
would
up
say
at
Dr. Alley.
5 doing things, it's going to be on your brain too.
I mean, yeah, but that's the honest question. It was gonna be you. Like,
And it's usually not foot related. It's like business related.
our
I get
business
the
is feet.
agenda. The to-do list starts at 5 a.m.
Yeah, so it definitely would be
It's me.
her.
You're sweating.
Am I? It's because my mom just called me about some nonsense. Like, dude, now I'm sweating again.
A leak on our brand new hardwood floor.
Right there, boom. Now all of a sudden, dude, fight or flight. I'm boom, sweating. And all of a sudden, like, clinic's about to start in 7 minutes. We're over here podcasting. This is the reality of what goes down.
Having in lunch.
Haven't even eaten lunch, but we have to come in and chat with you guys because we are, here to get to know you guys better, and hopefully you're getting to know us a little bit better. I'm Dr. Jeremy Cross,
And I'm Dr. Allie Cross.
and this is Footprints to Blueprints.
Have a good day, you guys.
Gonna make the world a better place. Gonna make it home.